Basketball is one of the most beloved sports in the world, and the NBA is the creme de la creme. And therefore, lots of NBA stars are regarded as by many to be great people and sportsmen, and are absolutely loved by their respective fans. However, not all NBA stars are good people, and some of them have in fact committed atrocities and crimes that can only be described as horrifying. In today's video, we'll be taking a look at the top 10 disturbing crimes committed by NBA stars. Number 10. J.R. Smith. Let's start the list with something a bit more hilarious and unexpectedly stupid, rather than outright disturbing, which is, of course, the act of driving without a license. When the Miami Heat and Dallas Mavericks were gearing up for the NBA championship last season, the New York Knicks' then free agent J.R. Smith was gearing up with something completely different in South Beach. In Miami, Smith was bopping around his scooter, yep, a scooter, without a driver's license when he was pulled over and given a ticket. Seriously, of all the things that he could have driven and of all the traffic violations he could have been stopped for, J.R. Smith got caught on a routine inspection while driving a little more than a bicycle. I wouldn't exactly call that a rap sheet or an unforgivable crime, but I also couldn't exactly leave out such a stupid way to get busted. There are only two questions I have left. Did the scooter have a vanity license plate? I would go with Playa if I were him. And is he planning on starting a scooter gang with Monta Ellis? All jokes aside, the rest of the list won't be filled with cases like this. Number 9. Kendrick Perkins. During the lockout, a time in which NBA players had very little constructive things to do with their time, Kendrick Perkins was one of the few players to run into trouble with the law. Last August, Perkins was picked up in a nightclub in Texas where he was intoxicated and attempting to fight the club's manager. From there, he was pushed out of the club's back door where he continued to yell and attempted to fight a few more people. Kendrick was subdued by the police and was subsequently arrested and taken to Jefferson County Jail. According to KFDM-TV, which first reported the incident, he was released after posting a $150 bond. The misdemeanor charges are punishable by fines. Well, why was Perkins there at all? Perkins was in the city about 90 minutes east of Houston, hosting a camp that raises money for his foundation, which aims to help children learn life skills and drug awareness, which is absolutely ironic and only adds insult to injury. Number 8. Kyle Lowry. In what was one of the more interesting cases over the course of the lockout, Kyle Lowry was convicted for his actions at a charity game in Las Vegas. During the game, Lowry was so upset at the calls a female official was making that he verbally abused her and ended up throwing a basketball at her in the process. As a result of the incident, Lowry was ordered to undergo an impulse control management course to go along with 100 hours of community service. I wholeheartedly agree with the order, as he could have hurt the official much more than he did. Number 7. Sebastian Telfair. Before there was Delonte West, there was Sebastian Telfair, and Bassie doesn't even have the whole bipolar disorder as a defense. Back in 2007, when Telfair was struggling to get playing time for the Celtics, I think Telfair's tenure with any team is always accompanied with the phrase struggling to get playing time. Bassie was picked up in New York with a suspended license when he was going 77 miles per hour in a 45 mile per hour zone. To make things worse, Telfair picked up a gun possession charge when the arresting officer found a .45 caliber handgun under the passenger seat. This was the second time that Telfair had trouble with guns, as he was caught with a loaded gun in a pillowcase back on the team plane when he was with the Portland Trail Blazers and struggling to get playing time. Absolutely unbelievable, as he was endangering the lives of many and he absolutely doesn't even care. This also wasn't his first time speeding, and it probably won't be the last. Plus, a man's got to ask, what was that gun for? Number 6. Jason Kidd. It seems to be a long time since anybody even mentioned Jason Kidd's arrest from back in 2001, but it was a pretty serious conviction back in the day. Kidd was charged with and pleaded no contest to spousal abuse charges, for which he paid a $200 fine and was ordered to undergo anger management classes. The ironic thing is that 6 years later, when the two divorced, Kidd filed a restraining order against his wife, alleging that she was abusing him at that point in their relationship. The man definitely had a rough ride and has since turned out to be a good guy overall. Let's hope it stays that way. Number 5. Delonte West. When Delonte West isn't playing stellar defense and draining the stray shot here and there, he's milling around being an all-around interesting person. However, back in 2009, West was picked up in Maryland while speeding on his motorcycle when the cops discovered a Beretta 9mm handgun, a Ruger 357 Magnum handgun, and a Remington 870 shotgun in a guitar case. West pleaded guilty to 2 counts of gun charges and was sentenced to 8 months of house arrest, 40 hours of community service, and 2 months of probation. Number 4. Deshaun Stevenson. Deshaun Stevenson has been arrested a few times in his NBA career, once early in his life and once more recently. As a young guard for the Utah Jazz, Deshaun Stevenson was accused and convicted of the statutory rape of a 14-year-old girl when he was 20 years old. Stevenson was convicted and served community service for a case that was changed from a felony to a misdemeanor. More recently and more forgivingly, Stevenson was picked up for public intoxication. When was he picked up? You guessed it, just 2 days after the Dallas Mavericks won their first championship in June. The thing that surprises me about Stevenson's public intoxication arrest isn't that it happened, it's that it doesn't happen more often in sports. How is it that every time a team wins the title there isn't at least one guy ending up in the drunk tank? I simply don't understand. Number 3. Caron Butler. After appearing on Oprah back in 2005, Caron Butler talked about his troubled past as a kid, which included him being arrested 15 times before he turned 15 years old. He went to jail a couple of times, and to be frank, nobody really expected anything out of him. He was a problematic kid that didn't seem to have a bright future in front of him. However, that turned out to be not the case, as he currently is a law-abiding citizen and Butler's arrest record had been clean ever since. It seems that he managed to rehabilitate himself since then. And it was a straight path to the top since then, as he went from jail to the NBA in 5 years with no real incidents in between. Good riddance, Karen. Number 2. Ron Artest, or Meta World Peace. Back when Meta World Peace was known as Ron Artest, and back before he became the more level-headed individual that he is today, Artest had quite a tough time with controlling his anger. First, Artest was tried and convicted for his part in the Pacers-Pistons brawl back in 2004, for which he was ordered to undergo community service and a year of probation. The next incident came in 2007 when Artest had moved on to the Sacramento Kings. Artest would plead no contest to a spousal abuse charge from March of that year. Stemming from that arrest, Artest was ordered to undergo 100 hours of community service, a 10-day work program with the sheriff's office to go along with a $600 fine and counseling. I suppose it's a good thing that he changed his name, especially since Artest is just one letter away from arrest. Number 1. Kobe Bryant. Yes, even the late great Kobe Bryant wasn't perfect. In fact, far from it. Back in 2003, Kobe was accused of adultery and rape. However, even though Kobe was never convicted, the whole thing definitely made a lot of sense. The Kobe Bryant rape case has, in the annals of popular culture, been reduced to something of a punchline due to the aftermath. Namely, Bryant's $4 million 8-carat purple diamond apology ring that he gifted to his wife Vanessa. But what exactly transpired on the night of June 30th, 2003? At the Lodge and Spa at Cordillera in Colorado may always be a mystery. Despite being charged with sexual assault and false imprisonment, facing life in prison, and tearfully confessing to committing adultery with his 19-year-old accuser, Bryant's case never made it to trial. On September 1, 2004, 1 week before opening statements were to be made, the case was dismissed after the accuser, who had been dragged through the mud for months by the media and Bryant's defense team, informed the court that she would not testify. Even though she filed a civil suit against Kobe, she decided to, for unknown reasons, dismiss the sexual assault charge. Kobe then apologized to her and to the public, and he had a major career setback that he managed to overcome. Although it was never confirmed nor denied that the foul act had in fact happened, it is heavily implied that it did, which is pretty horrifying and disappointing, as Kobe was regarded as a great human being and was a human rights activist, and he was adored by many up until his tragic death in 2020. So that sums up the top 10 disturbing crimes committed by NBA stars. Did you know about these crimes? What are your thoughts on the matter? Be sure to leave them down in the comments, and as always, don't forget to like this video, hit the subscribe button, and ring that notification bell for future updates. Until next time.